So as someone who's in the asexual community myself, I absolutely love when bigger content creators talk about it, which is why I'm so happy that Anthony Padilla has a new series going on over on his channel called Assumptions, where he gets a group of people from a specific group and they talk about all the assumptions. And recently he just did one about the asexual community. I'm super excited. Let's get into this video.
Asexuality is a disorder.
That's the core of every psychiatric disorder. It has to distress you or the people around you. And
I feel like it distresses other people more than me.
Yeah. Which
it really does.
So it's not a disorder, and I'm not like hurting other people around me.
But sometimes it's just like society tells you that you need to be this way. And like once you like can tune out those messages, it's like, hey, actually I'm fine not feeling sexual attraction.
I think it gets brought up as it being some kind of a medical side effect a lot too, like low libido, which isn't even necessarily applicable to every asexual. It's not.
Libido is different.
It's a different thing.
Yeah.
There's so many different spectrums, and people who aren't asexual can have a low libido.
In the past, I've heard people say like, oh, I haven't had sex in months, I'm so asexual. How does that make y'all feel when you hear something like that?
People taking like real orientations and like the people saying, I'm so OCD, oh my gosh, or like, I'm so depressed. Or the big one is like people like, I'm so traumatized, like, by that color shirt.
A lot of people confuse asexual with celibacy, which is just the choice to not have sex.
Right.
That is a different thing.
I think it's like fine if people are questioning that if they're asexual or not. It's like, oh, is this an identity? Does this apply to me? There's no way to like be asexual other than to not feel the attraction. It's like you can have sex, you can not have sex, you can have had sex once or 0 times or however many times, and that doesn't take away from being asexual. Like you said, like abstinence and celibacy, like I'm pretty sure the point of abstinence is actually that like you have sexual attraction and you're supposed to deny it, and we don't have it.
It's like the devil tempting you.
Right, and it's like there's no devil tempting us. There's no temptation.
I absolutely agree with everything that they were saying. It isn't a disorder, it's not something wrong with you, it's just a simple lack of sexual attraction. I really like that they brought up the fact that there's a difference between asexuality and celibacy. Celibacy, you still have that sexual attraction, you're still desiring and having those feelings, you're just choosing to abstain from sex. And people who are ace just don't have that attraction. Like, it just, like they said, there's no devil on your shoulder like, hey, I need to have sex. Like, that's not there for ace people. So like, you just, yeah, it's not the same thing. I'm happy that they brought up that there's no one way to be asexual other than the fact that you just don't have that sexual attraction.
Asexual people don't have to come out.
I actually
No, we do.
I've been back and forth on it before, because after I came out in the original interview with Anthony, I objectively made things harder for myself. And at first I was like, what did I even do this for? Because it could have been something, I go on dates and I tell them what my comfort level is with sex.
Yeah.
And that's all it needs to be. I don't need to like identify a way. I don't need to tell them what it is. That only causes confusion all the time anyway. I don't feel that way anymore about it. It has made things challenging in my life, just being this way. But I'm very glad that I came out. I'm glad that I told people, and so many people got to hear it. Because it validated so many people's experiences.
Yeah, that's really the important part for me. I'm part of organizing a meetup group called Ace Los Angeles. And so we meet on Zoom or in person once a month. But because I can come out, that like helps other people learn, hey, asexuality like exists. It's real. It helps like if you're just the only person that you know who's asexual and you're like, is this real? Is this like legit? But then like you go and you meet other people or like you go and you see that, hey, like these people are asexual too. Like this is real. It really helps people.
You know what helps coming out is the first video. It was a funny experience. I got asked out on a date by a guy in a mall, and I probably should have just said no to the number, but sometimes I have trouble saying no, so I took the number. And I think I told him, like, look, like, we could be friends, but I'm asexual. And then he's like, well, let's just cuddle and see what happens. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
That'll change everything.
You don't get it. At some point, I ended up just, like, texting him the video. And so it was, like, so, like I have video proof.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like coming out as asexual is very important. I completely understand Shelby's point to, like, the feelings of like, why does it even matter if I come out? People don't understand it anyway. And for me, I know it was really important to come out as asexual because it's something that if someone's interested in me, I'll just talk about it. Like, I talk about it in random places. Like, I don't care who hears that I'm ace. Like, for me, it's something that if you're gonna be interested in me, you have to know that about me. So it's just like, I would rather you know that before and like know what my comfort levels somewhat are before like trying to be interested in me. But that's just me. I definitely think it's important to have videos like the first one that Anthony Padilla did and this one and all of the other asexual content creators that are comfortable talking about ace stuff, having it be out there so that people know about asexuality and are able to find a word that they resonate with and are like, oh, I'm not actually broken, I'm asexual, because asexuality does not mean you're broken. The more people that talk about being ace and the whole experience that we have, the more people that could potentially realize that they're ace. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. So for me, it's super important to talk about being ace, and coming out as ace was an important thing for me to do. I understand why other people might not feel that way though.
Sexuals don't date.
If a relationship happens, like I'm interested in someone, they're mutually interested in me, then I'd be interested in pursuing to see what happens. But like, I have so many things to do during the day. I don't need to just be like dating lots of people or like finding someone.
I think that's a good way of going about it anyway. It's better if someone kind of, you find them in your life, like doing your daily things, that you're living your life for yourself. Someone else might come along, but you're not actively going out looking for something. I do hope to find a life partner. That's something that I have like as a goal. I want to find the person to spend my life with.
I don't think I'm really looking for a life partner. I honestly think that I'd be happy as just like on my own. And
I love the
just,
different
like, relationships with family and friends
like wants
outside,
from each
because I'm
people.
someone
I
who
think
needs my
that's
space
really cool.
anyways. And I mean, if you take the sexual component out, that's what friendships are.
Yeah, for me, it's like if it happens, then that's cool. But it's not like a wish list to do kind of a thing where it's like, oh, I want to be married by like a certain age or anything.
Honestly,
I think too many people are afraid of being alone. And I think that's like the worst thing that could possibly happen to us.
I love being alone. I love it. It's great. I love having space.
Honestly, I feel like that's like the biggest misconception that I see about ace people. And it does differ from ace person to ace person, like you can see in this video, depending on if they want a partner or not. It doesn't matter. I definitely feel that like, oh, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm perfectly fine either way. It doesn't really matter to me. It's definitely not something that I've ever like looked for or been like, oh my god, I need to be married by this age, mostly because like why? But I totally understand the whole like taking away like the sexual component, a relationship or a partnership. Yeah, you just have like friends. So like, and people downgrade friendships so much, and I hate this. I hate that, because it's just like, why would you prioritize one type of feeling over another type of feeling? It's never made sense to me. Like, I just don't get it. It definitely differs from ace person to ace person, whether or not they want to date or care to, but like, I definitely get that feeling of like not really ever looking for anything, because like, why would I?
Sexuals just haven't met the right person yet.
For my mom and my sister, they were like, you just haven't found the right guy, which is like, they had good spirit and good intentions with it, but
that's also not how like sexual attraction works. Like, you're not just attracted to honestly one person in like your whole life ever.
Yeah. And there's not one magic person.
Yeah.
Frankly, from what I've seen, people are often
I never got
the
that
wrong
either.
guy. Or like,
oop, yep.
I mean, it's not like I'm only attracted to the person who's best for me. I mean, there's a lot of bad relationships out there.
I like to call it the magic dick theory, where women get told that they haven't found the right guy yet. And it's like, it's asexual women, but it's also like bisexual women. They're like, oh, you're not actually bisexual, you're just like experimenting, you're gonna go back to being heterosexual. And I think bisexual men get it as well, but like, oh, you're actually gay, you just haven't figured that out yet. You're just gonna meet the right man, you're gonna realize you don't experience any attraction to women. And it's like, you should just accept that people feel the attractions that they do. And it's not about finding like one right person.
Yeah, I've never really understood that whole you haven't met the right one yet. Because, like, again, it is that kind of theory, like, oh, this magical person will show up in your life and change everything for you. And it's just like, no, that's not how attraction works. And there isn't a magical person who will just make you feel sexual attraction all of a sudden if you're asexual. Like, asexuality is a spectrum, so there are people on the ace spectrum who do feel sexual attraction occasionally or in very specific circumstances. Like myself, I am demisexual. Why do you care so much about someone else's sex life? It's kind of gross and it's kind of weird, and I'm like, stop. It shouldn't matter, and you shouldn't tell people this.
Asexual people can only date other asexuals.
I have never dated someone else that was asexual. Because of all people being so different, it might not be compatible for a lot of different reasons.
That's true.
So I don't necessarily think it's like we should encourage everyone to just date within like that closed pool.
Just being asexual, that doesn't guarantee compatibility in any way. Like, it might be foundational, like something you share in common, and that's good to have in a relationship. That's not gonna make something work. If someone's dating profile says that they're asexual, I was like, oh, like maybe we might be able to have that starting point conversation. Like, because you still have to explain, like, what are your boundaries with like physical intimacy, regardless of if you're both asexual or even if you're not asexual, you should still have that conversation.
Honestly,
everyone should have that conversation.
They say only about 1% of people are asexual. If you're an asexual person who, you know, falls in love or has feelings for someone, it's most likely not going to be another asexual.
Yeah.
No one should ever feel like they have to compromise sexually so they can fit in or be normal. I think the only thing is that if you choose to because it's worth it to you.
Yeah, this is one thing that I don't get when people are like, oh, you should just date another asexual. Every asexual has different boundaries, different likes, different things they want to do, don't want to do. Like, everyone's different. Just because you have that asexuality or that identity in common does not necessarily mean that you will be good together. Like, just because one person is gay and the other person is gay does not mean they will necessarily be compatible. Like, there are so many factors in being compatible with someone. Just because you have the same orientation, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will be compatible in a relationship standpoint. So I never understood this assumption. It's such a weird one to me, and like, it's just like, yeah, we're such a small percentage of the population. Like, come on, y'all. Like, think about it.
Any good ace representation in media?
I have heard of some, but I haven't seen the shows fully. I know there's an asexual character in BoJack Horseman that I've heard is good.
The director of Ace LA consulted on that, and in it they included like him going to an Ace meetup, and then we had people come to our Ace meetups like, oh, I saw this on BoJack Horseman, and then I looked it up and it was a real thing.
Cute.
And then they went, and it's like people like exploring their asexuality might not even know it's an option until they see it on TV. And it's like, hey, this is real, and like other people also feel this way.
That's great, because especially it's like one that's not talked about a whole lot, or it's talked about entirely wrong. I was part of a comic book series where I was in charge of writing and creating the character that I played. She's asexual. So anywhere that I'll have the opportunity to be a character in something, I've made the statement, they're always all going to be asexual.
Yeah.
Whatever that means for them, if they have sex, they don't have sex, but I'm just saying it before I even have other characters. They're all ace.
There's this Japanese live action called, I think it's Koisanaru Kutari, and it's about two people who are asexual who decide to form this like asexual, aromantic relationship and like live together, and it's like,
so
what does it mean to build a family outside of heterosexual norms? And it involves this woman like coming out to her friends, her coworkers, her family, and it was a really realistic depiction of like how different people react.
I think definitely Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory. I think obviously they had him have it later on, which at first I hated it, but now like after this conversation I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with it because it shows that how much of a spectrum asexuality is.
Because that's the one thing with ace characters I've seen is they're usually about like the same kind of a story and they don't explore the spectrum. And I can see how that could be hard on TV when like displaying lesbian's really easy. Put her with a woman, but displaying asexuality and it's like wide range can be really difficult.
This is something I'm actually very passionate about as someone who wants to be an actor and in the industry at some point in my life, making queer content and hopefully bringing asexual characters realistically to the screen. I actually didn't know that Todd had a consultant, so I'm really happy about that. Definitely for me, the very first ace character that I saw depicted on screen was Todd from BoJack Horseman. I love him so much. He's honestly probably my favorite asexual character. I know there have been a little bit more ace representation in the past couple years. I know most recently one in sex education, but I didn't see it, but I know a lot of people are kind of upset about that one. But Todd will always be, like, for me, the best ace representation because they explicitly say it. They go through a whole character arc with him exploring his asexuality, and it's done in such a beautiful way. Until we get more ace writers or people who are asexual in the writing room, this is always going to be something that, like, can be worked on more, and it is something that, like, yeah, like they were saying, like, if the character is lesbian, just put them with a woman. But because asexuality is such a diverse experience for so many people, it can be shown in so many different ways. So as someone who eventually would love to be in that industry and writing ace characters, like, top tier, like, I know we can do so much better with ace representation. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed this ace conversation. I love the fact that Anthony is doing this series. I love that he brought on ace people. The only criticism I have is that I wish he had someone who identified as male and asexual, only because I know that people who are seen as masculine get perceived differently when they come out as ace, so I think that would have added a little bit more to the conversation, but that's just me. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to see me react to any of Anthony's other videos. I love him and his channel. He's so wholesome, and I love that he brings light to different communities. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!